Hi everyone, my name is Xavier and I'm one of the co-founders of Index, and today I want to give you a quick demo of Index. What it is, what it does, what problem we're trying to solve, and for whom. So Index is a modern business intelligence tool, and what we're really good at is helping teams really understand their business data. If it's in their database, we help them surface that information and visualize it. So here, for example, you can see our dashboard where you can come in, put up your metrics, and get going. In particular, if you have like less technical folks in your team, very useful, right? Because you can come in here, visualize everything. It's super snappy, super intuitive. They can massage the data, etc. However, the real pain point is like that 0 to 1, even before the visualizing stage, is like, okay, how can I get information from my database quickly in a way that I can understand? And that's what I want to show you today. And for that, I want to take you to our data studio. And again, think of it like who's our ICP? It's everyone in like a company, but in particular, imagine you're like a early stage founder. Maybe you've written SQL queries in the past, but you're not very good at it. And really your focus is not learning SQL, is understanding how is the product being used and how to sell, right? So with Index, you can come in and connect to your database and be like, hey, Index, help me understand this data as quickly as possible. There's some of the obvious things, right? Like things like text to SQL, right? Where you can just like write a prompt like show me connections, blah, blah, blah. That's relatively straightforward, but because I don't have a lot of time, I want to show you some of the cooler things and some of the things that I see on my day-to-day that are even more useful. So for example, one of the things that happens a lot is like, your team might write SQL queries that are very complex and that you have no idea how to like write or even start to understand. So you can just come and plop it into Index, and other than text to SQL to write and ask questions about it, you can be like, hey Index, can you just like explain this query to me? And again, we have an understanding of your schema. We have an understanding of the query, so we can give you explanations of this. I can read this. Again, this query is doing a lot. So I'm like, okay, I read this. I kind of get a gist, but I still don't fully get it. Like, I don't even know how to start working with something like this, right? So I can come in here and ask Index like, hey Index, can you just like go through this query and like start like adding comments to it, right? And Index very quickly can go through the entire thing and give me, put it in this like little staging thing so I can review it and add comments. And because it knows the schema and everything else, it's pretty good. So I can accept this and then take it from there. So those are three features that Index is like pretty good at and helps, accelerate that time to value a lot. Now, in terms of lessons, so there are three things I want to focus on. One is speed, second, craftsmanship, and third, accuracy. So for speed, what we've realized is like it's probably better for us to focus on speed first and then try to massage the models to help them become more accurate. For us, it's easier to make them a little bit more accurate and return what we want, but it's not easy to make them fast. So if we want to prioritize speed, that should be a top concern. So there are a bunch of things that we do in that regard. One is obviously like things like using haiku as opposed to other variants. But there's also a lot of like UI things that we can do. For example, here's one that I left on purpose, which is like proactively showing you errors before you even run the query, right? Like a lot quicker than just like running the query, waiting 30 seconds. You get an error, so on and so forth. So that speeds the whole process. The second lesson is accuracy. I know I mentioned craftsmanship. I'll leave that to the last one. The second one is accuracy. So for accuracy, there's a lot that we can do. This is one of the main concerns with this type of applications. So there are things that we can do like one, feeding the schema. Two, handling things through separate tooling in things like, say, like a system prompt, so that, hey, if you have multiple schemas, we can parse that. If you tell us about a certain term, we can hold that in memory for a little bit. And then the last thing is, like, obviously, if you have things like consent from the user, you can feed some sample rows from each table and feed that as an example to the model to improve accuracy. So there's a lot that's going on there. And that's an ever-evolving area for us, obviously. And so the last lesson is like craftsmanship. And it's not just like the visual stuff, like, having a command bar and dark mode and all of these like really cool things. It's also having things that serve the two main lessons that I told you, like speed and accuracy. I already mentioned a little detail here of the error. You saw the little animation on the staging, kind of like the state, which is for accuracy. It's like, okay, are you sure this is what you want? And makes the user stop a little bit. And then other things like this little interaction here that we have so that you can see your previous queries through keyboard shortcuts, kind of like of a terminal. It's a little nice detail to help with speed. So again, craftsmanship, sure, visual, but also for everything else that's like accuracy and speed, that's really the focus. So yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it. I don't have a lot more time. This is Index. Hope you liked it, and thank you for listening.